Today we're talking about Nintendo Switch games that I regret not buying sooner. Nintendo Switch collecting is a very volatile market, and a lot of games have just gone up in price, and some of them I unfortunately was not, ahead of the curve on. Unfortunately, some of them I just missed out on before they skyrocketed. So today we're talking about games that I regret not buying sooner, or games that I still haven't bought that I still wish I had bought before they went up. Let's get into it. Alrighty folks, hello there everyone, Its-A-Mii here once again as always. Today we're talking about Switch collecting from the lens of games I wish I had bought sooner. I have been very fortunate over the past 4 years that I have been able to buy most of what I want as it has come out. However, there's always some games that slip through the cracks, and frankly, before 2020, I really wasn't buying that many Switch games in terms of like going for a collection. So I wanted to talk about like 10 or so games here today that are really expensive, or maybe even not like that expensive, but like they've gone above MSRP, right? In my opinion, if I can get a game for under MSRP, normally I'm like, okay, well that's fine. I wish it would get a little bit cheaper, but if it's less than it retailed for, that's fine with me. But once it starts going above MSRP, and especially once you start talking about games that have gone up to like $100, $200, $300, as we'll talk about in this video, that's where it's just like, okay, I regret not buying you sooner. So we'll be taking a look at some games that I have actually bought, and I have bought for more than I'm proud to admit, and we'll talk about how much in some cases, but also games that I have not bought that I wish I'd bought sooner before they skyrocketed. Like recently, as we'll get to towards the end of the video, I recently found out that Trine 1 through 3, the Trine series, has skyrocketed in price, and frankly, I regret not buying it. So I thought it'd be a kind of a fun topic to talk about games that I kind of just wish I had bought a little bit sooner than either I did, or in this case, I haven't bought that one at all, right? Because I'm not going to spend $300 on Trine. We'll start off with the big one though, and that is Shantae and the Pirate's Curse. This is the only Shantae game I am missing in my collection. I like Shantae. I have not played all the games in the series. However, funnily enough, Pirate's Curse is the only one that I've actually beaten. I beat it back on Wii U back in like 2014. So it is a game that I would like to own and just to kind of complete my Shantae set. However, I am not like a rabid Shantae fan, right? Like I got the other games because they were cheap enough, right? Through Limited Run. I bought them when they came out. I believe that Pirate's Curse was the first Shantae game that Limited Run published on Switch or released physically on Switch. And as you can see, based on the price charting history here, yeah, if you didn't buy this back in like 2019, good luck, basically, right? As you can see here, back in like 2019, you could get this game for like $60, which like even that is like still expensive because I believe this was when Limited Run was still doing, this was when they were still doing games kind of not on a buy order basis. Right now they do like the open pre-order, right? So they kind of gauge how many copies they need to print. Before it used to be that you had to wake up at 7 a.m. and there was a limited amount of copies. It actually used to be limited. And I believe this is one of like the remnants of that era, even though it looks like it came out in 2019, $60. And then sometime during COVID, as we will see with a lot of these games, that's when they start spiking, and it's really never recovered. Now, I wouldn't care about getting a sealed copy, so this is something that, like, if it keeps going down, like, I could maybe stomach, like, $150, $200 for Shantae, but as it stands, like, $300, I can't do it. This one is a great example, and frankly, I think this is just one of the most popular examples of a game I regret not buying sooner, because I think most people know that Pirate's Curse is one of the most expensive Switch games, if not the most expensive Switch game, if you're not counting, like, variants and stuff, right? So, yeah, Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, that's the first one I wanted to talk about, because I wish I had known back in 2019 here how expensive this game would end up becoming. Next up, we have a game I actually just got my hands on today when I'm recording, and I paid about $60 for it. And this is the thing, right? I regret not buying it sooner, but I'm also very, very happy I did not buy it during the 2-year period in 2021 and 2022. So let's talk about Attack on Titan final battle here. So I just recently started watching Attack on Titan. I love it so far. We just finished the first season. Cannot wait to watch more. And I was like, okay, I like anime games in general anyway. So like, this is what I always had my eyes on just as a fan of anime games. And if you look on this chart here, back in 2021, 2022, this game at one point, there was a sold copy for $538 sealed. Now, at some point, I believe in late 2022, early 2023, Video Games Plus, a Canadian retailer, actually reprinted it. So the value came down significantly. So this is one that, like, I'm sad I didn't buy it sooner because I remember when they reprinted it, it was actually going for, like, I want to say, like, $40 at a certain point. It's not showing it here. But VGP, I'm pretty sure, reprinted it for $40. I thought about buying it, and I was like, no, if they're reprinting it, it probably won't get too expensive again, right? And that might hold true. Like I said, I paid about $60 for my copy that I just got. But yeah, this is one that, like, I mean, back in 2020, before COVID, in late 2019, you can get it for, like, $40. And I paid $60 for it. Like, it's not a huge deal. It's not a huge difference. I am glad I did not buy it during this peak, though, because I remember when it was going for, like, $150. I was like, thinking like, okay, this is the game that's probably not going to get reprinted. I really did believe that Attack on Titan 2, not a very likely candidate for a reprint, as it is a licensed game, and it just felt like one that wouldn't get reprinted, and luckily it did. So happily enough, I was able to get a copy for cheaper. But I do kind of regret not getting it sooner. But also, I'm just happy I didn't like do something stupid in this period from 2021 to 2023 here, because that would have been rough. Next up, let's talk about my favorite Nintendo Switch game, and that is Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So, you all know me, I love Xenoblade. I did recently purchase the special edition, which I guess would also qualify as a game I regret not buying sooner, because the special edition only went up, and then recently it's kind of gone down, but I still pay like $200 for it, I believe, which is still more than I would like to spend on any given video game, although that was a special edition of my favorite Switch game, so I was like, okay, I'll make the plunge on that. But even just base Xenoblade 2, I actually did not buy a physical copy until around this peak here. Yeah, I got during the peak of hype here. I don't think it was quite the peak. Maybe at like around here I bought it. So like I think I spent $80 on a sealed copy. It is a world edition, which I don't really care that much, but it is a little unfortunate. But yeah, Xenoblade 2 I actually bought digitally originally because I wasn't like super set on the idea of collecting Switch games back then. And you know, looking back 2018, 2019, you could get the game for $35 complete. Like it was very cheap. And now it's back to that point. So I regret not buying it sooner, but I also regret not waiting. So that's kind of like the mind game that you have to like weigh. Like, okay, is it worth taking the plunge now because it's expensive, which is when I bought it. I bought it when it was not quite at the peak, but while it was still like, you know, $80 for a sealed copy, you have to figure out, okay, am I willing to buy this under the knowledge that like it's possible it goes back down, but also like the risk of it going up more. These are all things you have to consider when you're buying an expensive game, because like I always say in my videos where I tell people to like, okay, these games might go up. It's like, first of all, I'm not like an advisor or anything, obviously, but also only buy these games if you actually really want to play it or actually really want to own it. Don't buy it just because it is expensive. Buy it because you think it looks cool, you want to play it. And I think based on the history of any given game, depending on what it is, there's a precedent for it potentially going up. That's why I always say in my videos, like, don't just buy games because they're expensive. I didn't buy Xenoblade 2 because it was expensive. I bought it because I like Xenoblade. So I don't feel too bad about spending $80 on it, but also if I'd either bought it sooner or bought it a little bit later, I could have saved some money there. But when it started going up in price, I got a little scared. I'll be real. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to risk Xenoblade 2 being a game that's not in my collection because I love it very much. Next up, we have another Koei Tecmo game, and that is Warriors Orochi 4 Ultimate. Now, I did not find out that this even had like its own release until around the time that it started getting more expensive. So I think I spent maybe $60 on it. It has gone up, and it is a little bit more spiked than that, depending on if you're buying a new copy versus a used copy. I don't care about buying new copies. So actually, if you want to get like a used copy, you can get it for a little bit cheaper here. But I love Warriors games, and I didn't realize they released this. So there is like Warriors Orochi 4, not Ultimate with all the DLC, not on the cartridge, but I wanted to get this Ultimate version. And yeah, like I said, I think I spent like $60 on it. What I find most interesting about Warriors Orochi 4 Ultimate here is that it looks like it came out probably in 2020, and it actually wasn't until kind of recently, or like in 2023, that it started really going up. And this is one that's definitely above MSRP for a new copy now. If you get a used copy, you can snag a deal for like 40 to 50, but I also do see copies listed for like 80 all the time. So this is one that's like, it seems to have settled in that like 50 to 60 range for used copies, which is fine. But I would say if you're a big Warriors fan, this might be one to just kind of keep an eye on. Back in 2022, I decided I would like to go for every NIS America published game on Nintendo Switch. And that, of course, includes the Disgaea series. I enjoy Disgaea. I'm not like a huge Disgaea fan, but like I've played quite a bit of 1 as well as 5. And Disgaea 4 Complete kind of came out at a weird time where I remember hearing nothing about it. Like, I remember hearing nobody talking about the fact that Disgaea 4 Complete was even releasing. It came out right before COVID, and then during COVID, it was like $40. I believe I paid about $60 for it, and it did spike higher than that, like, right? Like, I didn't spend the $110 that you're seeing on screen right now, thankfully. And it has gone back down to like that 60 to 70 range, but if you look back in like early 2020, you could have gotten this thing for like $35-40. So this is one that, like, I think out of every Disgaea game, this is the most expensive one. And it just felt like a weird release because Disgaea 1, like, that was a big deal. They were bringing back the first Disgaea game. Disgaea 5 on Switch, I think it might have been expensive at one point. I got that for like $30. That was a launched game or like near launch game for Switch. But Disgaea 4, it just kind of came out at a weird time where I feel like people weren't really like thinking about it. And I imagine this was pretty low print. I think there have been reprintings of it since, maybe through VGP, because they do a lot of NIS America reprints. But this is another one that I just wish I'd bought a little bit sooner and had kind of been in tune with a little bit more early in regards to like going for that full NIS America set. Luckily with NIS America stuff, though, I have learned over time that like, most NIS America games are getting reprinted through VGP. I've gotten a lot of games that I would have had to pay more for otherwise, like Labyrinth of Refrain and the Caligula Effect games. There's still a couple I'm waiting on, like Yomawari and I think the first Void game. But for the most part, they've been really good about reprinting stuff. Even like East 8 and 9 got reprinted through them. So luckily, I've been able to kind of snag most of what I need from them. But yeah, NIS America, I wouldn't spend too much on immediately. I know some people want me to do like a full NIS America video because there are just so many cool kind of hidden gem JRPGs from them. I wouldn't spend too much money on their games because they seem to be pretty cool with reprinting them. Even like Liar Princess and the Blind Prince game I actually really enjoyed, even though it wasn't like super high quality. That one was really expensive at one point and then just kind of plummeted through a reprint later on. Next up is Samurai Jack Battle Through Time, and frankly, this is one that I regret not buying sooner, kind of, because it was a little bit cheaper, but also I kind of just regret buying it in general. Like, if I ever do like just a general Switch games I regret buying or games I regret buying video, this would probably be one of them. So if you remember earlier this year, Adult Swim kind of announced, or it came out, that basically they were going to be delisting a bunch of games, including like Duck Game and some other stuff on Steam. But mostly for Switch, it was Samurai Jack Battle Through Time, as well as Duck Game. And I did buy both of them. Duck Game was a little bit cheaper, so I was like fine with it. I ended up paying like, I think $80 or maybe $70 for Samurai Jack. For a sealed copy, it is sealed. It is the better version of it. There's a Best Buy variant that's not quite as pretty. I don't know. I don't care that much. I'll admit, this one was like almost purely like a FOMO thing. Like, Samurai Jack's cool, but it's not something I like really care to have in the collection. But also the fear of it being delisted, like, I feel like even if it isn't delisted right now, it still could happen later on. We'll see. But yeah, this is definitely one I just kind of regret buying in general. As you can see back, I mean, it was limited run, so it started out very expensive, right? And then it kind of came down. You can get a complete copy for like $46.50 in there. And now it has gone up again. And for new copies, in the case of what I bought, it hasn't really gone down, so like I don't regret it from that. Like, if I wanted to sell it and like move on from Samurai Jack in my life, I could. But I mean, even then, yeah, look at the sold prices of new copies back then. You can get it for like 50 sealed. So I regret buying it for 80. I think it hasn't plummeted in price, so there's not like too much regret. But also, I don't know. I don't really care about Samurai Jack like that. All right, this next one, I don't believe I've mentioned in a video talking about like games to buy before they get expensive. However, I actually just bought a copy very recently, and I did not realize how scarce this one was. So Life is Strange Arcadia Bay Collection. I like Life is Strange. I don't love Life is Strange. I think True Colors is the best one, which I also have on Switch, that one's like really cheap. This is a Square Enix game, and I do want to get a full Square Enix set. I think that'd be a fun video to do, talking about every Square Enix game that's been published on Switch, at least physically anyway. This one was never like that cheap. However, if you look at this little tail end here, it is starting to spike. And if you look on eBay right now, there's not like many copies listed. So if you're a Life is Strange fan, I would say keep an eye out for this one. Just know going into it that there is a code, I believe, for Life is Strange Before the Storm. It's Life is Strange 1 and then Life is Strange Before the Storm, which is the prequel to Life is Strange 1. Before the Storm is a download code, I believe, which is why sealed copies are going for so much more. You might get lucky if you don't care about the download code thing. You can buy the game digitally or whatever, right? They're not delisted. You could get a used copy with maybe the code's been used, hopefully in that like $30 range. But I would say this is one to keep an eye out for, just because, like I said, there's really just not many copies listed. So I wish I'd bought it a little bit sooner, but live and learn, I suppose. Another one that I am glad I got in when I did, because it kept going up, but also I wish I'd bought it a little bit sooner, is Jump Force Deluxe Edition. I've talked about Jump Force on this channel. Interestingly, this game is not expensive at all on PlayStation or Xbox. However, the Switch version is technically the most complete version of the game you can get, because it includes, I believe, just the first Season Pass on the cartridge, not Season Pass 2. But this game got delisted, of course, if you are following the anime game space. I love anime games. I actually enjoyed Jump Force for what it was. I think I paid maybe like $40 to $50 for it used, which is about what it's still going for. But for sealed copies, that's just going even crazier. So this is one that, like, if you like anime games, I would say Jump Force is probably something to keep an eye out for. But also, you can just get it on PlayStation. But also, the PlayStation version is not complete as this is. Even though this isn't like the full version, because it's still missing Character Pass 2, it is still the most complete version of Jump Force you can get, which is just a huge shame. I don't understand why they delisted this. I don't know if they're planning a sequel. The game sold very well. And what's funny is, it shut down in early 2023, I believe right around here in February 2023. It came out on Switch in 2020. So, like, it didn't even really have that long to live, like, before they announced the server shutdown, because they announced the server shutdown summer of 2022, I believe. So it only had, like, a year and a half on the market before they announced server shutdown for Switch version, which is just such a huge shame. Even if I know most people don't love the game, it's just, like, Come on. But yeah, you can look back in like April 2022, it was going for like $21, and now it's up to that $50 range, which is not horrible, but it's also not very good. And now finally, to end the video off, we have a couple more that I have not bought because they are so expensive, and I really just can't justify it, but I wish I had the foresight back then to buy a couple of these games sooner. So first up is this indie game called Blasphemous from Limited Run. I have Blasphemous 2. Blasphemous is freaking awesome, really cool art style, really cool gameplay. Blasphemous 1 is pretty expensive. It's over $100 on average, I would say. But summer 2022, or really just 2022 as a whole, it was like a $40 game. And that's just one I would like to have, especially because I have Blasphemous 2. I don't love having, and this is full collector brain stuff, but like I don't love having a sequel for a game and then not having the first one, or it really just, I like completing franchises. That's why I talked about Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, because I have every other Shantae game on Switch, so not having Pirate's Curse on the shelf just gives me a little bit of a, I don't like it. So Blasphemous, that is unfortunate. It has gone up so much. I don't really think that's going to come down, unfortunately. So that's one I probably will just never buy, realistically. Next up is another one that I have played digitally. I think Limited Run actually sent me a review code for it back in the day or something, so I did play this game. I enjoyed it. It's not like great or anything, but it is Stranger Things 3, the game. I enjoy Stranger Things quite a bit. I am a Stranger Things enjoyer, and I enjoyed this game for what it was, and it would be a really cool kind of just nice collection piece, right? It's a cool game to have a physical, right? This got delisted from Netflix games, unfortunately, which means it went very, very expensive. So back when it came out, it came out in 2019, but the physical started shipping, I think, in 2020, so right during COVID. You could get it for like $40, which is about what it costs on Limited Run. But then around, I think probably right around here, right, this first spike, that's probably when it got delisted, and it just has gone up since. Basically, for a sealed copy, you're looking at $150, complete $120. Who's buying a loose cartridge of Stranger Things 3, the game, for $115? That just feels kind of weird to me. But yeah, this one very expensive, and I don't think this game's gonna get relisted. So this one is probably a lost cause for me as well. I wish I had bought it a little sooner, but I didn't really like start seriously collecting until 2022. But even then, I was still buying Switch games in 2019, 2020, and 2021 as well. But it wasn't until 2022 that I started going back and getting the stuff I missed. Like 2020 and 2021, I was just buying the stuff that like was coming out and that I thought looked interesting and that I wanted to play, like all the first party Nintendo stuff. It wasn't until around the time that this game started spiking that I started going back and getting more that I missed. So this one's unfortunate, but I will probably never get it. And then finally, this one, I don't know how under the radar this one is. I might be shooting myself in the foot by even talking about it because I really do want to have this game. However, I don't think I will ever afford it because it is really expensive, and I don't know if it really has any signs of coming down in price. And that is Trine Series 1 through 3. I really like Trine. It's not a series I'm like in love with, but I do really enjoy it. I actually platinumed Trine 3, which is probably the worst one in this collection. I actually platinumed that game back in like 2015. And I've enjoyed the other Trine games, right? Trine 1 through 3, for some reason, in the past couple of months, has just completely spiked. So I imagine for a lot of you watching this video, this is your first time hearing about this collection. This was published exclusively at GameStop because it was published by Game Trust, which is GameStop's kind of publishing arm. It's one of the last games I think they ever published. I'm not sure if they're even doing publishing work like that anymore. It's interesting because Frozen Byte, the developer of these games, also did that game Has Been Heroes, which was also a GameStop exclusive. So there was some sort of a relationship there where GameStop and Frozen Byte, they were just working together and like, hey, what if we did a physical of Trine 1 through 3, which means there's also no European copies of this. I'm pretty sure there's no Japanese copies. It is just this ESRB copy, and it is very expensive. Looking at the chart here, it came out back in 2020, maybe even late 2019. It started out, it's never been like super cheap, right? Like it's been $40 consistently, $50 for a skilled copy. But for some reason this year and in like the past 2 months specifically, I don't know what happened. Maybe someone in the comments down below can enlighten me a little bit. I'm not sure why this is going on, but Trine 1 through 3 has become one of the most expensive Switch games overnight, basically. Sealed copy $300, complete copy $160. I saw a sold copy on eBay the other day, I think for $500 sealed. Like, I mean, it's more expensive. It's more expensive than Shantae now, Pirate's Curse, which is crazy because Pirate's Curse has been the most expensive Switch game, but it looks like Trine Series 1 through 3 might be giving it a run for its money. Now, what's interesting about Trine is that there is another release of these games, but I'm pretty sure it's download code, so let me just verify this. Yeah, looking at some photos of this game on eBay, it's actually Trine 1, 2, 3, and 4, but only Trine 4 is on the cartridge, and then 1, 2, and 3 are a download code. So the only way to get Trine 1, 2, and 3 physically, I think maybe at all, is through the Switch version. I think there might be a PS4 copy as well, but Trine is a pretty, I would say, It's a niche indie series, but also there's 5 games now, so like it's not, too niche. Like people know what Trine is, and if you want to get those games complete on cartridge on Switch, you're gonna have to pay a lot of money now. Which I just wish I had known. Like I've talked about that game in the past. Like I've talked to my girlfriend about buying. Like, oh, I should get this Trine 1 through 3 collection. This is kind of a weird niche physical release. I like the series. I would like to get it. I think we were talking about it like maybe, I don't know, maybe a year ago, back when it was like $50, $40, and here we are now. So that is going to do it for today's video. I just wanted to kind of talk about some collecting stories, and also just games I wish I had bought sooner, games I regret not buying sooner, and games that I will probably never buy now because they have gotten so expensive. If you have any of your own stories of games that you wish you had bought a little bit sooner, I'd love to hear them down in the comments below. Thankfully, I'm pretty on top of things now. So like, just for example, like I always talk about this series. I have not played the series yet. However, I know I will really, really like it. I know I will. I love JRPGs. I already have all of the Trails of Cold Steel games. I was waiting for some sort of easy way to play the first game, Trails in the Sky, and that is getting a remake now. Those games are pretty expensive, but luckily I was on top of them. So I'm pretty on top of things now, but like there are a few little stragglers that are still pestering me in my brain as I sleep at night. Trine and Shantae probably being the biggest two at this point. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Of course, subscribe here for more collecting content, Nintendo Switch collecting content reviews, that kind of thing as well. And follow me on Twitter at BoTalksGames. Check out my Nintendo news channel at BoTalksGames. And until next time, folks, peace.